and the goal is just to see and learn the basic aspects and features of the Sketch.io platform. So let's get started. So we create a new project. Okay, we're gonna start with the empty project template and create the project. Okay, so we need to give it a description. All right. So here we are in the Sketch platform, and first we're gonna start making the header of our portfolio. So for that we need a logo. So we're going to go to Photopea, which is a very neat and free tool that allows you to create pictures very similar to Photoshop, and in our case we're gonna use it to create our logo. It's gonna be a very simple logo. So we're gonna make a transparent background. Then we're gonna type in some text. So for our sample portfolio, the name of the web designer basically is gonna be Johnny. All right. Can increase the size. Now we need to choose a nice font. All right. Okay. Alright, so I think this one looks good enough. So this is going to be our logo. We're just gonna increase the size, center it. Right. Now can we maybe add a little line underneath? Is that possible? I'm trying to do something that might look cool. Isn't easy, of course, but we're gonna give it a try. Yeah, I'm definitely not very good at this, but yeah, maybe something like that. Put it in black. Yeah, sounds good. Alright, so we've created our logo. We're gonna resize this image to be a little bit better. Yeah, something more rectangular. Actually, maybe something like this. Then we're gonna crop it. Gonna realign. Put this in a folder. All right. So this is our logo. We're gonna save it. We can save it as a PSD file so that we can change it later if you want. But we can also save it and export it as a PNG, so a transparent file. All right, so now we can go back to Sketch, and here we're gonna basically build our header. So for that, we're gonna add a div block, and it's right here. And inside of this div, we're gonna add our logo, then a menu. So let's do that. So the logo is gonna be inside of a link, so that when you click on a logo, you're basically gonna go to the home page. So we're gonna put that like this. All right, actually it's above, so let's move it inside of the div. And now inside of the link, we're gonna add our image. So image right here. All right. Now for the image, we can upload our own image like this. All right, perfect. So of course the image is huge right now, but we can scale it down. So here we're gonna change, okay, so the link already goes to the home page. So let's resize our image. So we can basically give it a maximum width of maybe 200 pixels. This is minimum, so let's go to max. All right, 200 pixels sounds good. As for the link, we're basically going to change our div block to be a flex item, and direction like this. We don't want the items to wrap, and we want everything to be perfectly centered. All right. All right, so now let's add our menu, and the menu itself is going to be inside of a div block again. So like this. So this is our menu, and inside of the menu, we want to add our links. So it's going to be link text, just like this. All right. All right, didn't put it in the right place, so like this. And here we're going to rename it home. So this one will bring us home. So we want to give some, since we're gonna have a lot of links in this menu, we want to give it a class. So we're gonna give it a new class, and it's gonna be header menu item. Be specific, because header menu can be just the block that surrounds the items. So let's do this. And now we can customize it a little bit. So by default, the font of the whole page is Arial. So let's change that to, I like Open Sans. So that's better. I can also, we can force the links to be uppercase, but first let's start by changing the weight like this. All right. So now let's add some other items to our menu. So let's duplicate this a few times. Okay, so here we can do contact. Then we have maybe services. And here maybe work. All right, so they're all close to one another. So let's add some margin. So maybe 8 pixels, 8 pixels. All right. Now we want this whole block to align to the right. So we need to change the parent block, so the one that has the flex property attached to it. And for justify, we can do space between. So this way, the space between the items in our flex block are going to be separated, and the space is going to be between the elements, like this. All right, so we can even add more margins, I guess. So let's add an inner margin. So let's add maybe 20 pixels here, 20 pixels here. All right. Okay, so it looks good. Now what can we do? So we need to configure these links to their respective target. So we're gonna do that a little bit later. As for now, maybe something that we can do is that we can add the social icons directly in the menu here. So let's do that. So we can add some icons, and the icons are going to be inside of links because these are links. So let's first add a link here. Yeah. And inside of the link, we're going to put our icon. All right. Now for the icon, maybe we can choose something like Facebook. Yeah, or maybe let's do Facebook. Now the link is a block, but we want it to actually be a inline block so that it flows with the rest of the page. Okay, so this one is overwritten, so let's reset this. So we first are going to add a class, so it's going to be header menu item or social. All right, and here we're gonna add the, okay, so it says, okay, let's remove this. All right, so let's go back to element with this class. Right, so we're gonna duplicate this item a few times, and we want to have a vertical bar here to separate both sections of the menu. So let's do that. So we're gonna duplicate first. So maybe 3 links is enough. So Facebook, Twitter, and let's do YouTube. All right, so now we want the links to be a little bit more separated. So we're gonna click on this element. So it's gonna be plus 8 pixels by 8 pixels. All right, maybe we can make them a little bit larger. Okay, and let's add a bar here between them. So this is gonna be a div block. All right, so now this div block is not gonna be a div block, it's gonna be an inline block. All right, and we do not want to give it any inner margins, so reset this. We want to give it a specific height, so here we can maybe put 20 pixels, and for the width we're gonna remove that, but first we just want to set up the border, so it's gonna be 1 pixel. All right, this is what it looks like. Maybe decrease the opacity. I mean, this one. Alright, so we see that the alignment is clearly not very good. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna take this diff block and we're gonna make it itself a flex block. So it's gonna be much easier to align the element. So direction like this and align element center. So now everything is perfectly aligned. Now we have this issue where this element has a width, but we don't want that. First, let's save. Let's see our final result. And we see that here it doesn't have the issue. That is because in Sketch, when you have an empty div block, by default in the preview, it gives you like some dimensions so that you can select it and modify it. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to do that. But as you can see in the actual website, in the actual preview, there's no width here. So let's increase the height of the element. Alright, now it looks good. Maybe you can even increase the margins again here. So outer margins, let's add 10 pixels, something like that. Save, refresh. Alright, looks perfect. Okay, so now we have completed our header page. Let's convert this header into a component. In this tutorial, our portfolio is basically going to be a one-page portfolio. So these links are going to basically redirect the user to specific sections of the page. It's not going to be separate pages, but it's always a good practice to make our headers and footers as components so that if you ever want to use them in separate pages, it's going to be much easier to do. So we select this element, and in the page navigator we convert it to a component. Alright, now we can continue and add element to our page. So let's do that. So we're gonna add maybe a small section where where you can talk about yourself. So let's add a div block here. Alright, and inside, what can we put inside? So let's add maybe we can add like two sections. So an image of a person here, and then like a small title and a small bio or something of that sort. So to do that, we're gonna add two new div blocks inside, like this. So two div blocks, like this. And the parent one, we're gonna do the flex. Flex is super useful, like this. And we're gonna justify center, so now they're centered. And as for the alignment, yeah, we can center it too. In the first one, we're gonna add our title. Okay, it's okay, we're gonna change that later. And a small paragraph. So this is gonna be our bio. And for the second one, we want to add an image. It's gonna be the profile picture basically. So now let's rearrange that here. So this is the first one. So let's add the header inside, then the paragraph, and add the image into the second column. Alright, so let's add a small title. So hi, I'm Johnny. Okay, and here we can add some kind of maybe some text. Let's add some random text. So let's add maybe this amount. Alright, you can see that things aren't working as we might expect, but we can configure that later. So here for the image, I have this image I prepared that I really liked. So the image was on Unsplash. So let's just take it. Alright, so this is the link of the image. Okay, and now we want to limit the width of our blocks, so our columns, maybe to how much? So let's try, maybe we can set them to be 400 pixels. Okay, and this one too, not the image but the block. So 400. Okay, now the image exceeds the 400, as you can see, like this. So we want the image to have a maximum width of 100% and a no maximum height. Alright, so now the image has the same size as our block, almost. And what we want to do now is maybe we can add a circle. So we want to crop our image to fit into a circle. So for that we can simply add a radius of, let's say, 200 pixels. Okay, like this. And what can we do now? Yeah, so now we can see that the image, whoa, what happened? I think I've added the radius. I don't see which element I've added. Okay, so I added the radius to the wrong element, so let's reset that and let's select our image again and let's add our 200 pixels here, like this. Actually, maybe it's cool to keep this one to 0 or maybe to 5. Yeah, this sounds good. Okay. So we could add maybe a shadow right here. So maybe, yeah, I've done the same mistake again. So let's select the image and add a shadow to the image. Maybe do something very light. Yeah, but yeah, maybe you can just keep it simple and remove the shadow. Alright, so this is our text. Maybe we want to increase the size here of our title. I mean, is that too much? No. Maybe we can add a small margin here. Alright. Alright, so yeah, maybe I want to add more margin between the header and our block element. So maybe here we can put 30 pixels and 30 pixels at the bottom, so we have more white space. Alright, so it's already starting to look pretty good. Let's now continue. So this is our first section. Now we want to do maybe a section about our previous work. So let's add a new block like this. And now we want to maybe show different, to basically list different projects we've worked on. So let's add another block here. Okay, so this is the block, like the first job we've done in the past. And inside of it, we want to put the title, maybe a description, and maybe an image. So let's do that. So we're gonna add a heading, then a small paragraph, and then a small image. Alright, So as you can see here in the navigator, so this is our work section and this is the first item. So we're gonna build this item, configure it. Maybe what we can do is that we can turn it into a component, and then we're gonna duplicate the component and change the configuration for each and every instance of the component. So let's do that. So first we're gonna say that we have worked for space X. We can put maybe a date, so something like 2018 to 2020. Yeah, maybe I would like the date to be smaller, so maybe we can add a header, a third heading, something here. Alright, and for the image, let's go pick an image on Unsplash. Or actually, maybe we can just pick a logo right away. So let's take the logo of SpaceX. Let's copy here their official logo. So we go here, copy the link, and here's the logo. We want to restrict the size of the logo to maybe 200 is probably a good guess. Alright, now we just want to align everything so that everything looks smooth. Maybe since we have an image here on the right, maybe we can put the image on the left this time. So how can we do that? We can either turn this whole block into a flex and put these elements into their own block and then align everything. Maybe we can try to do that with the grid tool. So we select the parent element as always, and we are going to have 2 columns. Okay, and the first one is going to be around 200 pixels. Alright, and we want to move this image to be the first element. So let's go to our navigator and put it like this. Alright, so this is the first image, and we want this image to spread basically 3 rows. So row span is going to be 3. Alright, so now things are aligned, but it still doesn't look very good. So let's select the parent again. So the issue here is that the height of these rows is basically proportional, but maybe we want the third row to have the full height and these ones to have the minimum height basically. So let's go back here. Yeah, not this one. Okay, so let's go back here, and for the fixed rows we want to do something like the first one is going to be auto, the second one auto, and the third one is going to be the free space basically. So it's going to fill this amount of space. Alright, now let's work more on this. So maybe I think the width of this is maybe too big, so let's limit the width of our block. So we're gonna do max width, and let's do something like 700. Alright, now for the parent element, let's put it as a flex element. This time it's gonna be a vertical one, so a column flex like this, and we want to align the element to the center. So this one is gonna be flush to the center like this. Alright. Yeah, now we see that the 700 is not a lot. So let's do 900. Yeah, so this is the maximum width. So maybe that's why. So we're gonna put the width of 100%. But the maximum it's going to reach is going to be 700 pixels. right? Or maybe a little bit more. So maybe 800. Okay, so that everything is aligned. Great, now we need to maybe configure this image. Can give it a little bit of radius. So maybe 5 pixels. All right, and now we need to add some margin here. So let's see how we can do this. So let's select the diff block, and here we have the row gap. So this is the gap between the rows, and we have the column gap. So let's put 10 pixels. Perfect. All right, so yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking about how we can improve this. So I guess maybe we can work on the spacing. So maybe here we can add some inner margin, 15 pixels like this. Maybe this one should have a lower opacity or a lower color. Let's use opacity instead. Something like this. All right, it's getting better. So we see here that the paragraph is not perfectly aligned because it has a padding. So let's remove the inner margin. Okay, it's much better. And let's copy some more text. All right, we can justify the text. Okay, looks good. So now what we wanted to do is to make things easier in the future. What we're gonna do is we're gonna basically turn this into a component. Okay, so this way we can reuse this whole setup we've done for our other works. So let's turn this into a component. So let's call it work item. Okay, so now it's a component. But if we duplicate the component like this, you see that if you change this one, so if you put a space here, it's gonna affect, actually this is a bug. So if you change it like this, you see that it changes here as well. So what we need to do is to turn these specific properties into component properties. That way we can have the same component but configured different ways so that it looks differently for each of its instances. So this one is going to be the title. All right. This one is going to be the date or dates. Here we have the description. And finally we have the image URL. So this is going to be image. Perfect. All right. So now when you click on the component, you already have the configuration of this specific instance of the component. So this way we can create different instances of the same component. So for our second job, what can we do? Let's say we've worked for what? Maybe we can keep the Elon Musk thing and do Tesla now. So let's get the Tesla logo. All right, so we want something square. All right, so here we have a new image. So this is our Tesla logo. So you see here that the logo is not perfectly aligned. It's probably because it fits into this area. So what we can do here, the thing is that the logo is like a rectangle instead of a square. So here it was good, but here it doesn't look very good. So what we can do is that we can double click and we're going to change the way the image is set. So we're going to give it specific dimensions. So not just a automatic height. We're going to give it a height. Let's keep it a square. So 200 pixels. All right. So now the thing that you see here is that the image is going to be contained inside of this area. You can also make it fill, so this is distorted, or just cover the whole area. Maybe cover is the better looking one for us, but you just need to make sure that if your image is too big or too small, it's going to be cropped. Alright, so let's update the information here. So Tesla, then we can do 2015 to 2018, or like this, and same text. Alright, yeah, let's add some spacing here. So let's double click on the component, click on the block, and add some margins. So maybe 15 pixels and 15 pixels like this. All right. All right, so let's add a third work now. So it's going to be Intel. So let's duplicate here the work item. All right, and now we can change the configuration. So let's do Intel, let's say 2014 to 2015, and let's change the logo. All right, so now it looks pretty good. Maybe what I want to do is maybe change the background here of this whole section to differentiate it from the previous one. So let's go to the background section and do a very light, maybe just something very, very small. Yeah, something like this. All right. Yeah, now it looks odd because of the Tesla logo. But I think it's fine. All right, maybe I also want to adjust maybe the spacings or the font, the calligraphy here. So maybe reduce here the font weight, maybe to the size here, adjust the size here. For this, maybe we can decrease it as well. Okay, maybe we can increase the layer spacing. All right, perfect. So let's add a maybe a small title for this section. So let's do title here. Yeah, so it's at the bottom. Let's move it up. Let's yeah, so what I want to do is first let's type in work. All right, and maybe we want to give it a specific class. So it's going to be section title or heading. All right, so that we can reuse the class later, and we can really decrease here the opacity, something very small. Yeah, something like this. And yeah, probably add some margins. Yeah, something like this. Or maybe even an even larger text. Alright. Alright, now we have done the work section. Now let's add a services section. So we can maybe just duplicate this whole section and we can rename this services. We can remove these components. Alright, and here we have services. I'm gonna go ahead and add a footer because I don't like working at the bottom like this. So let's add a footer, so it's gonna be a div block. We're gonna add it like this. And in this footer, we're gonna basically just first put our logo. So let's add an image. Okay, so this is the footer. Let's put the logo inside, and the logo is going to be the same asset as the header. All right, we want to maybe align this. So let's again use flex. As you can see, I really love the flex block element. So the image has a certain size. Maybe we want it a little bit bigger. So it has used the 100 pixel size image. That's strange. Alright, so looks good. Now we want to decrease the opacity. Do something like this. Maybe it's too big. As you can see, it's really about tweaking and modifying the sizes again and again. And we can add maybe a small text. With love at Montreal. Of course, here it would probably be better to use the heart icon, but for now I'm just gonna keep it this way. So let's add a small margin. Maybe I want to reorder them like this and add a small margin. So here, probably something like 20 pixels. And maybe add some alright. You know what, maybe I'm gonna change the background of the footer to be dark, something like this. And what we can do is change the color of, we can apply basically an invert effect on the image so that it becomes white. We can even maybe increase now the opacity. Alright, and change the color here of this font. Maybe we can inherit it, so it's gonna change it right here. Or maybe not like a perfect white, maybe. Alright. Alright, okay. So now we have the services section. Maybe here we want to revert the section background color to a white, like this. Alright. And now we can work on the services section. So what we want to do is maybe like add 3 elements here. So one might be like electronics, another one might be web design, and let's yeah, let's start with a small component here. So as I said, we're gonna add like some horizontal blocks. So we want to put them inside of a parent block so that we can use the flex row align tool. So let's rearrange that. Okay, so this one is going to be the parent. So let's give it a name, or actually let's set it as a flex element, direction row, align everything maybe to the start so that they're aligned from the top, not centered. And yeah, I think it's good enough. And now this is our first service that we offer. So how can we do that? So basically, we can first add maybe a large icon at the top of the service. It's going to be like the image of the service. Okay, then we are going to add a heading. So something like this. Right now, I'm just like putting things here. I'm going to rearrange the order in the navigator like in a minute. And finally, a paragraph. All right. Now let's rearrange everything inside of this div. All right. So this one, we want to give it some styling. So first we can align everything to the center. We can add some more padding and some margin as well, so that okay. And let's add some kind of maybe a background, maybe like yeah, it doesn't look very good. Okay, maybe we're not gonna add a background, but maybe we can add a border. So here we can maybe put a 3 pixels border and do something very light. All right, and yeah, we see here that we might want a more margin here at the bottom. So let's increase that. Here we want to add some radius. All right, and let's now change this icon. Let's put it much bigger. Okay, so the first service might be web design. Okay, let's find an icon that might fit that. Okay, so we don't have like maybe a good icon to fit this. So what we can do is maybe use an image instead of an icon. So let's do that. We're going to remove this icon, and instead we're going to import an image. All right. All right, so I'm going to pick an image. So I'm going to use this image again from Unsplash. So let's take this image and put it here. All right, so this is going to be web design. I'm very not, really don't like how it looks so far, but we're going to change that in a few moments. So the image is clearly too big, so let's decrease the size. Maybe 250. All right, and you can fix the height as well. 250, and we're gonna do the cover. So we want the image to cover the whole area, and let's add some radius. Okay, so I don't like this border. It really looks ugly. So let's remove this. Okay, it's already like a little bit better. I think the text is too big, so let's decrease the size, so maybe 1.5. Okay, let's add some margin. Okay, and this size as well, it looks too big, so maybe if we do 0.9, maybe we can put it uppercase, increase the weight. Okay, yeah, okay, it already looks better. So let's turn this into a component as we did with the work sections. So let's convert to a component, and this one is going to be service item. Okay, let's duplicate it, or we said we need to convert these into component properties. So this one is title, description, and image. Alright, so now we have the first one. Let's duplicate it a few times. Alright, so these are our services. The second one, maybe we can put programming or something like that. So let's take a quick picture in Unsplash, as always. It's really a neat tool, especially when you want to create like some sample websites or things like that, as I'm doing right now. Okay, so here I've got a cool image here, and we can do programming or web development or something like that. And the third one is gonna be as we said, since we have like a lot of electronic experience, let's do something like electronics. Okay, and let's pick another image from Unsplash. So maybe circuit board. Alright, got a good one. Alright, perfect. So now we have our services. Maybe we can add like a small paragraph here where we can like introduce a little bit. So paragraph, oops, let's move it here. All right, here we can add more text. Okay, let's make the paragraph centered and limit the width. So maximum width can be something like, yeah, 800 seems to be good. Maybe you have too much text. And maybe we can add some margin. Like this, and maybe you can decrease the margin here. So it's probably coming from here. Alright. Alright. Yeah, and one more thing, here we have a flex element where the elements here are displayed on a row, but it might be a good idea to set it as a wrap items. This way, if we have too many elements, they're going to wrap and they're going to go into more lines. This might be a good thing to keep in mind. All right, now let's add our last section. So it's the it's the contact section. So maybe we can duplicate the services one. So duplicate. So this was the footer. As always, it's always a good idea to turn it into a component. Okay, and this is our contact section. So we're gonna remove what we have inside here. So we can remove this. We can keep the paragraph, and maybe we can put a big contact button. So it can be a link, for example. Okay, so this is a button. Let's increase the size, maybe 2. Okay, and email me or reach out. Maybe get in touch. Okay. Let's change here the background color. I don't like the green, I mean. Maybe we can put something blue. Okay, looks good, but as you can see, when you hover, it goes back to green, but that is because copy the color here. Let's go to the hover state of our button. Let's copy our turquoise color. Okay, and there's also the click state, so that's when the button is pressed. So let's copy again, and we want it to be a little bit darker. All right. Okay, now our button still doesn't look very good, so let's change the typography. Let's put everything like this, increase this, and make a lot more margin. Okay, so it's much better. I think we should even increase the margin more. So maybe 25, this is 15, and 15, and decrease the size of the text. I think it's too much. Okay, okay. Alright, and for the link you can do something like mail to, and then you put your email, so something at gmail.com. Alright, or let's do something like example. Okay, perfect. So let's save and let's see our results so far. Nice. So it really looks good. Here we should probably change the color so that it's the same as this one. So let's copy here. It's F4 like this. Oh yeah, because the opacity is at 0. Perfect. Okay, so like this. Let's also increase the margins. Maybe even 40. Same here. And here. Perfect. Save again. See our preview. That is strange. Okay, now works. Alright, so one last thing. I don't like the way that you can select these titles. I would prefer to turn them like this into non-selectable elements, and for the cursor we want the default one like this. So this is really just, I prefer it this way. And what we can do now is make these links work. So right now the links only go to the home page. What we want to do is that when you click on work, you scroll down here and so on for the other links. So to do that, we first need to give an ID to our sections. So this is the work section. So you click on the whole section, and in the ID you give it a name like work. Same for the other sections. This one is services. All right, and this one is contact. All right, and now what we can do is change these links so that yeah, let's double click and let's go here, and instead of going to the home page, we go to the hashtag work. So this will redirect to the specific section of work. So we do the same with services and contact. Okay, let's save. Let's update our page and let's see the result. Perfect. So you can see when you click on contact, you go to contact. Of course, you cannot scroll more than this, but if we had more, it's going to scroll fully to this. All right, so we've been able to build our portfolio website for desktop, but the thing is that we need to also test it for mobile devices. So to do that, we can open our browser inspector. You can do that with the F12 key in your keyboard, or just right click and inspect. So I can just do inspect. Usually you will the DevTools or the browser inspector will open like docked. I prefer to have it like undocked, so in a separate window. So then we can open the mobile preview. So we can click on this little icon here, and then we can close, or not close, just switch windows. And here we can choose like which device we want to try on. I prefer maybe the Pixel 2. And you can see that clearly the website we've built doesn't work very well on mobile. So this is something that we need to work on. So we need to make our website responsive so that it works well on both desktop devices, but also on mobile devices. So let's head back to our sketch designer. And the first thing we can do is that on mobile, we maybe want to have our menu display under the logo. So we want to change the way everything displays on smaller devices. So let's see right here the preview for tablet. And I think for tablet it works well enough. Maybe this needs some work, but for tablet it almost looks good enough on my end. So let's go to the mobile landscape, and we start to see that on mobile landscape it starts to become it starts to look a lot less good. So let's double click on the header component, and when you make a modification in the mobile landscape mode, it will only apply to the to this mode and the modes to the right, so on smaller sizes. So what we want to do here is to change the way the div block, so the header flex configuration works. So instead of having it, first you can maybe just wrap the items. Yeah, this could work, but I think we can do it differently. So maybe we can use a column direction. All right, and yeah, to me it already looks pretty good. So maybe this is just enough. So yeah, so we see that when we go to a smaller screen size, so directly to mobile, it breaks. So what we can do is that we can also divide our menu into 2 rows. So this is our menu. Yeah. The thing is that it's going to be very difficult to divide it in 2 separate rows. So how can we do that? Oh, actually I did a mistake. When I applied the styling for the mobile landscape, you need to apply it not on the selected element, because when you do modifications on selected element, it's going to apply on all screen sizes. So we need to like go back here. All right. And we need to now enter to the mobile landscape, and here we need to add a class to our element. So only when you apply a styling with the element type or a class, only when you do that does it apply like on specific screen sizes. So we need to add a class. It's going to be maybe just header. All right, and now we can maybe just, yeah, okay. And now we can like apply the column direction like this. Yeah, so it doesn't work, and the reason is that when we apply a style on our header element, it's overridden with the selected element style. So we basically would have to like move all of these configurations and move them onto the header class rather than directly on the element styling. So this is like, it's called like the specificity of the selector, and the selected element like supersedes the class element. So we need to change that so that when we apply our styling on mobile landscape, it overrides the styling on desktop. So let's do just that. So we go back to desktop and we're going to basically reapply all our settings like this. Just reselect and you see that it applies. So space between, and now we're going to go to selected element and we're going to remove these stylings. Yes, we can save and refresh the page just to make sure that. Okay, I guess it was a bug. We'll look into that later. But yeah, so we see that now when we go to landscape, the direction that we have chosen here, which specifically applies to landscape and smaller screen sizes, now it works, because it overrides the configuration we've put on the header class. So we said that the other thing we want to do is that maybe on mobile portrait, maybe we want to separate these in two separate lines. So how can we do that? So I guess one easy thing we can do is to wrap all of these elements into their own div block, and these social icons on their own div block. And what we can do is wrap them so that one is above and below the other. So maybe this is like a good option, and let's do just that. So we're gonna drag two div blocks here, so one and another one. Yeah, so this is the first, no, so this is the separator icon, and this is the, okay, so I guess I only added one, so let's add another one. Okay, and now what we're gonna do is to put all our links inside of the first one. All right, and the other links right here. Oops. Yeah, I made a mistake. Okay. Okay, so now we have like two div blocks that surround and hold our menu, and another one that holds the social icons. So let's give them, yeah, I think it's better if, so the way we've done it so far is that we just applied everything on the selected element, which is the fast way of doing it. But if you want, as I said, if you want to do responsive design, you need to apply the styling on class elements. So let's change how we've configured this so far, and let's switch everything to actual class elements. So this one is going to be header menu. let's make sure it's selected. So this one is header menu, and let's apply the configuration right here. Okay, and let's do the same here. Yeah, make sure that it's selected. Now let's go back to selected element and let's revert all of these. Okay, let's save. Now we want to give some names to these elements. So this one is going to be header menu links, and this one is going to be header menu social. Okay, and let's save this, or maybe this one also we can give it a name. So this one is going to be header separator. We can also like just remove it and apply our styling directly on the social icon. So we can just add a border right there. So we don't need like a specific separator. Yeah, but we'll just do it this way. So this is our header separator, and we want to remove the styling we've put so far. So 30 pixels, 1 pixel, let's remove that. Okay. All right. All right. Let's apply this now to header separator. Yeah, so I already forgot the values here. So here I know it's 1 pixel. I know here it was 1 pixel and the height was 30 pixels. So that's good. This one was like this. And for the margins, I totally forgot the value. So let's just save. Let's refresh. Okay, so let's. Oh yeah, I actually made another mistake here. So the issue is that I started making modifications on the header separator class, but I was in mobile, so it was applying only on mobile, which is why when we go to desktop, it doesn't apply the changes. So what we can do is we need to revert the changes we've done here. So let's revert this. Okay, let's go to desktop, and in desktop now we can add these. Okay, and here just make sure that it's applied. Okay. All right. Now we see that there's a wrapping issue. Yeah, it's because we did the same mistake here. So we were applying the styling on this on the header menu, but only on mobile and not on desktop. So we need to remove these. So, oops. Let's put it back and let's remove this first. Okay, now let's go to desktop. Let's add our styling again. This one was center. All right. Save. Let's open this. Let's go to laptop. All right. Okay. Okay. So now we have like change everything to use classes so that now it works. We can do like more easily. We can do the responsive styling. So now we are in the mobile landscape, which is good. So let's go to really mobile. And here, what we want to do is first, I think we can just remove the separator because we no longer need it. So let's hide it like this. Okay. Once it's hidden, if you want to select it, you probably want to go to the page navigator and find it here. And what we want to do is to change this, the header menu, and the direction we want to be column. All right. Okay, so we save, we refresh our page, and let's see how things are. So we can decrease the size, and we see that the menu looks perfect. Okay, so now what we want to do is work on the other element. So for the image here, maybe we want to have the image below this text. So maybe that's something we want to do. We probably want to do the same here. And for services, this is another issue. So we want to center everything here. So let's attack each one of these issues one by one. Okay. So here we have a section, and the direction is this way, and we probably would like to have it the other way. But again, we need to first add the class on this whole element so that we can do actual responsive stuff on it. So let's add a class. It's gonna be, let's say, bio section, or section dash me. Okay. And let's go to the selected element. Let's remove everything here and reapply it again to the class. So let's just, don't forget our configuration. Yeah, need to remove these first. Okay, we go to the class and reapply everything. All right, so now it works on desktop. Let's go to tablet. Still looks good here, and here, yeah, it still looks good. Yeah, here it starts to look a little bit odd. So yeah, maybe from mobile landscape you can just change the direction here so that it displays like this. Yeah. And when we go, yeah, this is something that I noticed. It's that when you go on mobile, the text starts to like overflow the page. And the issue here is because we have set a specific dimension on some of these elements. So you see here we have put like a 400 pixels here on this element. And so if our screen is smaller than 400 pixels, it creates this issue. So we need to go back to desktop. And what we can do is that we can add a maximum width of maybe 100 pixels. So that if the screen is too small, it's not gonna not gonna force the 400 pixels. So just go to a 100% of the screen. And now we see that it works very well. So let's save. Let's go back here. Nice. All right. All right, so what next? So work looks odd. Yeah, I think maybe we can try to, let's see what we can do. So let's go here. So here we have a component, double click. Here we have the block, and the block is a grid, if I remember. Yeah, so it's a grid. And what we want to do is, yeah, so what we would like to do is probably have the title here, then the date, then the image, and then the paragraph. And we might want these to be like in a single column. So let's go back to desktop. Let's do the same thing. So let's remove all of this and apply it to a specific class. In our case, it's going to be a work card, maybe. So work card, create class, and now we're going to remove these and apply it to the work card. So now we need to pretty much remove all of this. yeah, just need to remember everything before you remove it. So 800 and 100 pixels. Okay, let's go here. So here it was 800 pixels and here it was 100 pixels. Okay, here it was okay, so great gap. All right. I already forgot. Okay, so let's go back to the class, and now we want this. This was 10 pixels. The grade column, so this was, I think, 200 pixels. And we only had 2 columns. And for the rows, we had fixed rows, and it was, I think, auto, and this one was auto. Okay, I think it was like this. So let's save and let's refresh. Okay. Yeah, I think it works. So now we have switched the block to use the class, so now we can actually do responsive stuff on it. So let's go probably from probably from mobile landscape. We can start making our changes. Let's see if we just do a flex like this, would it work? So it works, but we need to change the order. Okay, and we need to change the order, and probably we would like to align these to center pretty much everything. So that's easy. So align element center. Okay, and now, as I said, we just need to change the order here. So to do that, we select the image and we give it a class. It's gonna be work card image. Okay, we go to desktop. Yeah, you probably want to change everything. So we're not gonna like move all of these properties to the actual class. We can leave it on the selected element, but the important thing is that when you want to do responsive stuff, these properties need to only be changed specifically in the class. So here we just want to change the order, so we're going to leave the order as auto here for desktop, and when you go here we want to change actually, yeah, I was applying it on selected element. So let's remove this. Let's go to the class and let's apply the order only in the class. Let's go here, and now we can change the order here and put, let's see, 2. Okay, it doesn't work for some reason. So maybe it's because we also need to put an order in these for these elements as well. So let's just see, is it really? Yeah, I think that is the reason. Okay, that's strange, but I thought it would work right away, but yeah. So as I said, the issue now is that we want to reorder these, so we're gonna select each of the elements and give it a specific order value so that they're aligned in the order we want. So again, to do that, we need to add classes to each element to do the auto order for desktop, and specifically here in mobile landscape, we want to give it another order value. So let's go back here, let's click here, and this one is going to be work card title, and this one is going to be work card date. Okay, this one is going to be work card description. All right, so we're gonna apply the auto order here, same here and here. And when we are in mobile, so this one is gonna be the first, then this one is gonna be the second, this one is gonna be the third, this one is gonna be the fourth. Let's save. For some reason it doesn't work. Okay, so here it works. Okay, so let's just refresh the page. All right, so now it works. All right, so we see that, yeah, it didn't break anything. We could of course adjust some spacing here. So let's go click on the image. Okay, and let's add some margin here. All right. Good. Now we're left with the services section. And here I think it was really just an issue of configuration. So we applied the column flex on this element. So we wrapped the items so that they're wrapped. What we need to do is probably just set justify to center, and yeah, so we're pretty much done. So let's refresh this. Let's go to Google Pixel, and this is how it looks like. Great. So we're pretty much done. We've built the website first on desktop, and then we applied styling specifically on the smaller screen sizes, and we see that it looks very great. We can definitely keep on improving this. For example, I feel like this text is maybe too wide. Maybe we can limit it to like 400 pixels or something like that. But yeah, it still looks great and it's responsive. Great, so thank you everyone for listening to this tutorial. We've seen that we were able to build a portfolio website very fast and very easily with the sketch.io platform. And if you have comments, if you have questions, feel free to ask. If you have feedback, that will always be helpful for us. So please contact us if you need to. And yeah, so thank you for listening and see you very